Afternoon, everybody. This is Patrick from the Poison Pen Bookstore in Scottsdale, Arizona. And today we are delighted to have Laura Dave with us. She's going to be talking about the brand new book here. So it comes in and out of view with this background, but yeah, it's called The First Time I Saw Him. And Laura very kindly signed a batch of books for us. So we can make up the signature there. And I'll go ahead and put a link in the comments field if you'd like to send any questions in, or if you'd like to, order a copy of one of the autographed copies. And Riley Sager very kindly agreed to come in and talk to Laura today. And I still have a copy or two of his great book here with a vengeance. And I'll go ahead and put a link to both books in the comments field. So yeah, send in your questions, and Barbara or Riley will summon me back on screen towards the end of the hour, and I would be happy to ask any of your questions. So Barbara and Riley, over to you.
Thank you very much, Patrick. Well, a toast to Laura because today is publication day, and I'm assuming, unless you got up really early, this is actually the virtual book lunch. Is that right?
Yes, exactly.
Wonderful. So Riley is a very dear old friend who's been to the store many times, and so I'm going to introduce Laura because this is, after all, her day, her event. She's the New York Times. I'm reading off the back of the book here. The New York Times best-selling author, number one of several novels, including The Last Thing He Told Me and 800 Grapes. Her novels have been sold more than 5 million copies, have been translated into 38 languages, and she lives in Santa Monica, California, with children, possibly a dog,
I
maybe
wish I wish there was a dog. There's no dog,
no
but
dog. Well, there's a husband, so I
yes,
guess we'll go with that. The last thing he told me was a Reese's Book Club pick, an Apple TV series starring Jennifer Garner. So you did a wonderful interview with Publishers Weekly a while back, Laura, and so I crypted questions just to kind of kick this off. And the question they asked you was, did you ever imagine that story would resonate this deeply and widely when you first wrote it? And did you feel that readers wanted a sequel from the beginning?
you know, I th- I think and I'd be interested in what Riley thinks of this as well, but I think when you're enough books in, when the last thing he told me came out, that was my sixth book. And you never know how a book is going to be received. And you just really you write the best book you can, the book that you feel comes from your heart, and you see what happens. And right away, that book felt different to me. The responses I was getting, and the amount of reader notes I was getting asking what happens next, and I was very surprised that I had an answer whole cloth, even though I never planned on writing a sequel. And so I very quietly sat down and started working on that sequel because I only wanted to write that second book if I felt like it was really going to do justice to the first and to how people felt about those characters. But it was not planned ahead of time. So it was a journey.
So when I read the first time I saw him, I thought it was not just a sequel, but also a prequel. Riley will undoubtedly explore that. So I'm going to disappear here and turn all this over to Riley, and I hope you all enjoy the conversation.
Thanks, Barbara. So happy pub day.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for being here. As I was saying before anyone got on, I am a huge, and I'm not alone in this, of course, a huge Riley Sager fan. So I feel honored that you have time to
Thank
do
you.
this with me today.
When I was asked, I was just like, the only reason I didn't say yes instantly is because I had to check my schedule first. And then I'm like, oh, schedule's clear. Yes. But so first, I mean, I guess, do you want to talk about some breaking news that was announced this morning involving a beloved blonde actress and her little book club, perhaps?
Yes, I'm very excited that this is the January Reese's Book Club pick. It's her first sequel that she's picked, which is feels like a big honor. And it was they did a very fun announcement this morning that I did not know was coming, that kind of announcement. And
Oh, it was a very cool announcement. It was
yeah,
Reese and Jennifer Garner, and there were some tears and some excitement. It was a great video. Yes.
excellent.
So it's pub day. Where are you right now?
I'm in New York City, in a hotel room in New York City. So this is actually the launch. As Barbara was just saying, this is the very first event. But so I've been doing a bunch of interviews today and podcasts and all sorts of things. And I'm from New York, so it's very fun to be back and be home.
How does it feel to have another book out in the world? Has it changed over time from like your first book to now? Or are you just too busy about the logistics of getting from one interview to another to really have a moment to yourself to slow down and think about it all?
I don't know how you are. I couldn't sleep last night. I was like up and wired and like watching a crazy Netflix true crime documentary about the guy who was killed in Monaco like till 5 in the morning. My husband, I texted my husband, he's like, "Why are you up? You're away from our child. You could be sleeping." But I every release day I get the jitters. Nothing has changed since the first book, except in some ways the jitters feel like they get crazier. I don't know why. Maybe because when my first book came out, social media wasn't yet a thing, which feels like this third thing that happens on a release day, which, is its own monster and responsibility. And so it feels like a crazy day.
Yeah, it's for me, I'm usually flying somewhere,
Mhm.
which is a good thing because I don't have the opportunity to fret as much because I'm fretting about
Yes.
like making my flight and the plane being delayed and then getting to like the event on time. And so like it's crazy because I would like a moment to just reflect, like I accomplished this thing.
Yes.
But in truth, it's just like I need to get to this place by like 6 p.m. because there are people waiting for me. And so
That's a good
it's
way to
all
organize it. That's a good way to organize it, I think.
just mentally, I think it helps.
Yes.
So like I guess Barbara already asked about like the response
Yeah.
to the last time I saw him.
Mhm.
Um, let's talk about where the the last thing he told me. I'm going to mess this up so many times. I
You're not,
apologize in advance.
let me tell you something. I had to do a video like for something and I messed it up. So like my next book is going to have a one-word title. It's going to be like
Yes, that's
house.
so. I will just to make things. I'll just refer to it as the sequel
Yeah,
and the first book.
I like that.
So where are we with the sequel? Like
Timeline.
picking up from like
Yes.
the first book. So like
Yes.
tell readers where we are now.
So I wanted it to operate as a sequel, as a prequel, and also as something that could live entirely on its own. So I made a decision that the epilogue of the last thing he told me was going to be the prologue of the first time I saw him, which is a way that you're sort of right back in the action. If you haven't read the first book, I drop in enough information that you don't need to. But I think if you have read the first book, it also, I hope, brings you right back into that world. And I pick up 5 years later with Hannah and Bailey at the moment that, just as a refresher, in the last thing he told me, Hannah Hall, who's our protagonist, her new husband, Owen, disappears, leaving in his wake only a note that says protect her. And Hannah knows immediately that that refers to his 16-year-old daughter, her stepdaughter, her new stepdaughter, who wants very little to do with her. And now they have been building a life for these last 5 years when Owen reappears. And whereas it could just be that he is stopping to see them, Hannah suspects and correctly suspects that he is back because it is more dangerous for him to stay away than be back because they are once again in danger. And that's where the book picks up.
And I really liked how you did that because at the end of the last thing he told me,
Hmm.
I'm like, oh, he's checking in on them. That's
Yeah.
sweet. It's sad. It's sweet. And like and then this one, it's the same scene pretty much. And it's just like, oh no, it's worse.
Yeah, it's worse. Well, what's so funny is in my first imagination, that is what that moment was. And I thought that he was going to check in and go on his way. And I was surprised that um, you know, because I'm sure people ask you all the time, like, well, what happens to these characters later? And you might have some, I don't know, actually, I shouldn't speak for you. Do you, if you think about what happens to them once you close the page, or if that is their last moment? But for me, I always sort of think about it a little bit, but I was really surprised that, oh my God, no, that wasn't why he was back. It was sweet, but also they're in trouble.
Very
So
sinister. Yes.
yes.
Yeah. No, and I don't think like
Yeah.
when a book is done, I'm pretty much
Done.
done. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there may be a world in which, because there's a couple books of mine that I'm like, maybe I'd like to go back to that a
Yes.
little bit, but I don't know. We'll see.
I'm really interested which ones those are. I've read
I
every
can't
single one of your books, but I don't know if you can say it here. But
I can't say because this is how rumors get started,
okay,
Laura.
okay,
Like,
okay. I'll leave it alone, but I'm like, is it final?
but maybe later. Yeah,
Okay,
like
okay, great, great,
if we ever meet in person, we'll go to the
great.
bar and I'll tell you. I'll be
Oh,
like,
I
it's
love that.
this one.
Yeah.
But so okay, so it had been a hot minute since you wrote
Yes.
the last thing you told me. So was it difficult getting back into Hannah's head, or was it like riding a bicycle? You're like, I know exactly who this woman is.
What was so surprising to me is it was the latter. I just, as soon as I sat down to write it, and in fact, because I only wanted to do it if I felt like I was going to do that first story justice, I wrote 100 pages before I even said a word to anyone that I was writing it. And I wrote it very, very quickly. And I felt organically that everything had been moving toward this second story in a way I wasn't even aware of when I was writing it. And part of that was the first book I wrote on and off for 10 years. And the original ending of that book, which stayed the ending for a little while, and then I moved on to like 18 other endings before I found the ending that was the ending. Um, is that first chapter, the very first last chapter, I should say, is the last chapter of this book. So I think it took me 2 books to get to the ending I was meant to get to.
I think you made the right call there
Yeah.
because it's a good ending.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
really good. Like I'm always like I'm so nervous about spoiling anything,
Yeah.
but just like readers, yeah, have no fear.
Yeah.
But before you started the secret 100 pages, which by the way, that takes some self-control.
Yeah.
I would have been like, I would have had to tell someone, like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm writing a sequel to this. But
Yeah.
so before you started, were you worried that you weren't going to be able to figure it out or hear her voice?
Correct. I was worried, or also that it wouldn't feel organic. I didn't want to write a sequel where I had to do 50 pages of explanation about the first book. So I had 2 sort of jobs for myself, which was one, the center on which everything hung for the first book was that Hannah was not watching Hannah become the hero of her life and the hero of this child's life. I didn't want her to be anyone's victim. So again, I wanted to sort of circle that bullseye. So that was my number one goal. And my secondary goal was, and I want to be able to drop in. I don't want to be spending so much time with explanation. And so I wanted both to feel that both those things were happening organically. And so I wrote until I got to the end of part 1, and then I wrote part 2 before I even showed anyone. Because I'm like, am I doing both of those things? And I think for me with a sequel, I thought about sequels I really love, like the Odyssey, or the Sicilian. And often those sequels become prequels because they're answering questions that readers didn't even know they were necessarily asking. And that was another thing I wanted to do. I wanted to bring some of these characters who I cared about to the forefront in a new way in this book. So it was an exciting challenge for myself, but I was ready at any time. I have no problem throwing things out. I think often what makes us writers is as much what we're willing to throw away as what we're willing to keep. So I was ready to put that 100 pages in a drawer and let it live there. So I really wanted to give myself the time to do that.
And it was a surprise to me because I mean it has been a while since I read last time I saw him. But that is all of that is just in Hannah's point of view, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yes. And so when we see very early on, I'm not spoiling anything, like
Yes,
a third person Owen point of
yes.
view and a third person Bailey, I was like, oh, she's filling in the blanks for us. This is cool because I didn't have questions
Mhm.
after the last time I saw him, but then when I was started reading the
Yes.
first time, I just was like, oh, she's filling in blanks, and I'm pleased that she's doing this. So, like, what moments did you feel like you had to like go back and sort of show from someone else's point of view?
Well, one thing was that people were readers who reached out to me, I should say, had so many different opinions on Owen. And some people readily forgave him, and some people were mad, and some people wanted to know more. I felt like one of the things I wanted to do, because I hadn't seen it in exactly this way, was have Hannah be correct, that she was correct in how she saved her family. And I wanted it to be a bittersweet first ending. To the first book, but I wanted her belief in who she had married to be accurate, that she wasn't wrong about him. And so, one thing I definitely wanted to fill in was what he has been doing, what the last 5 years have looked like for him, so that he could earn what she believed about him. So that was really important for me. And sometimes for me, because I don't outline, I don't know what's going to happen. I was very surprised that Nicholas, sort of for those of you who haven't read the first book, Nicholas is the lawyer to this crime family that causes a lot of chaos in their lives. And he is also Owen's former father-in-law. And Nicholas and Hannah's story, when I circled around that in the first book, Nicholas became one of my favorite characters, even though he's ostensibly a bad guy. I found his humanity complicated and touching, and it was something I really wanted to dig into deeper, so that, I had these I had index cards above my desk with several words, one of which was salvation, one of which was redemption, and one of which was forgiveness. And I felt like that those were the three things that so many people in this book were circling. And every time I moved into someone else's point of view, it was to move closer to those words, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think you did a very good job with his character of touching upon all those three things. And as a reader, I was more like, at first, I'm like, screw this dude. Like, I don't forgive him.
Mhm.
But then also, it's like, okay,
Fair.
Bailey loves him.
Mhm.
Hannah loves him.
Mhm.
I will trust them. And you do eventually throughout the book, like, show a softer side of Nicholas and why he's done the things he's done. And that made it better for me as a reader. Be like, okay, I forgive him. It's all good now.
Yeah. I mean, I think I understand why people would be so furious at him. And I think for me, I'm like, no one's as furious at him as he as is at himself. And no one has suffered more for what he's done than he has. And then that's when I dig into that, that's where I can sort of find why everyone else can love him. Um, and that's something that, I feel like I don't write thrillers with like a capital T. I write like suspense books with a low S, like a lowercase s, meaning they're more like, because I don't have traditional, like, one of the things I love so much about your books is, and you use this word, so, how unhinged people can become. And it's beautiful. Like, and I felt that, all your books, but since the very beginning, since Final Girl. And you have to know your strengths and your weaknesses. Like, I can read that and love that. I can't do that. I end up with people shaking each other's hand and like trying to find a way forward. So that's why but I think that what I hope our books have in common is when you get to the end, you feel a sense of justice. And so many books that I love, you feel a sense of justice when you get to the end of them. Because I think that is what storytelling can be, because we sometimes can't find that in the real world.
Well, first, thank you so much. You're so kind. But true, second, I think it's true. Like I never want to let readers down. I always want to stick the landing, so to
Mm,
speak. And so
yeah,
like, did you know, like, so you say you don't outline, but
yeah,
you knew how it was going to end, I'm
yeah,
assuming, because you said that was like the last chapter of the
yes.
first book. But so like, I think you knew that, okay, I'm sticking the landing here. It's just the journey to this part that's going to be
Yes.
like the big task.
So this, and I should clarify because I keep, I've been saying that it's the same chapter. What it is the same final motion, but I
Mm,
didn't
okay.
know exactly how it changed. Originally, it took place at an airport, but like the basic,
Right.
premise is what happened. So oftentimes I don't know, which is why it takes me so long to write books, because the first draft is one way and the second, and I move another way, because for me, it becomes that process of discovery. But that idea of sticking the landing is everything, I think, because so many times I feel it as a reader. You get halfway through a book and you're in, and then it's like you get to the end and you just feel like the plane didn't hit the runway in the proper way. And you feel so bummed out, even though you love the first third, you love the first two thirds. And so, what I do know is when I finally get to the ending that's right for my story, or what I think is right, I feel it. I almost feel like I landed the plane, and I take a breath and I'm like, that is the moment I've been searching for. Michael Chabon has this amazing essay called Wrecked, um, in which he talks about the book he wrote after The Mysteries of Pittsburgh. He wrote this book that he couldn't ever, he kept thinking he was finding the ending, and the ending was moving further and further away until he finally put that book away and wrote Wonder Boys. And I think there's a wonderful feeling when you feel like I have found the ending that feels to me both surprising and inevitable. And that feels like the key to something readers will hold on to one way or another.
Yeah, that's very true. I often find when I'm struggling with like, okay, I don't know where this is going. I don't know where this is going. And then when you finally figure it out,
Hmm.
read back, I'm like, I've been leading to this all along and I didn't even know it. Sometimes like there's that sense of like you're subconsciously, you know where you're going. And I think like just the main part of my brain is like, I'm lost, but I should just trust like the subconscious more, I think.
No, but I think it's really, really hard to trust it, because it's almost as though I always equate it to, E.L. Doctorow has this great quote about writing a novel is like driving a car at night. You can only see as far out as your headlights. And so if you can only see as far out as your headlights, you don't know if you're about to hit a deer or if you're about to get through the pasture and it's all going to be okay. And it's hard to have that faith, I think, because sometimes you go not you, the general writer,
Right.
goes the wrong way as much as and you have to, but what I have learned is like, if I stick with it long enough, I'll find my way there, and I'll know when I get there. Like, you can't fool yourself. You'll know
Right.
when you get there. And for me here, I knew when I knew it at the end of the second to last chapter. There is a line which I don't want to ruin. It's the very last line of the second to last chapter. And when I found that line, I physically took a breath because I knew I found my way to the end.
So let's talk about Hannah and Bailey.
Yes.
Their relationship is far different in this book than the
Yeah.
first one. And so let's tell me a bit about how like you came to that, because you could have gone several ways with it. And I love the way that you actually went with it.
So in the first book, another Bailey was a very typical disgruntled teen, who was very unhappy that her father remarried and now was dealing with Hannah. And she's someone who had never been mothered. And then you have Hannah Hall, who has never been a mother. And so they, in some ways, were a key to each other's lock, but it was the wrong key and the wrong lock for a long time, until the very end, in which of that first book, in which the lock is turned, and you feel that they've moved toward each other, the beginning of that. And now here we are 5 years later, and it could have looked a bunch of different ways. And something that I really felt was, and there's one of the reasons I chose to make it 5 years later is that Owen has been absent for those critical years when Bailey was becoming a young woman. You know, those years between 16 and 21 that really mark up the beginning of your life and what you think, you know, now I look back and 21 and 22 feel so young, but then you're really coming into your own consciousness as an adult. And Hannah was the one that was there for all of that. And I wanted to honor what that space looked like for them. You know, she's still very much her mother now, more her mother than she ever was. And yet at the same time, they're almost friends or becoming friends, and she's trusting in her. So in some ways, Hannah becomes a wish fulfillment character of the kind of mother I hope I will be, knock on wood, when my son is that age, that I won't be hovering and worrying the way I worry now that he's 9, but that there will be beauty in that letting go, and he will come to me of his own choice. And so there, I wrote into being the relationship I hope I will have.
Oh,
You know, minus the stress of being on the
yeah,
run
the
from
all the
crazy people.
all the fearing for your life type of thing.
Yes.
Yeah. No, but I love how like just right off the bat, like, Bailey calls her mom.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
first time I read that, I was like, oh,
When I got there, I was like, oh, this is the primal love story. This is the real love story. It's between the two of them.
yeah, in some ways it really is. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's such a special relationship. So, let's pivot to the TV show a
Yes.
little bit. I don't know if you can say anything. You probably can't. Is the second season going to follow the plot of this book, or are they going to do their own thing?
So what I can say without offering too many spoilers is the show's coming out in February, at the end of February, so pretty soon.
Mhm.
And just like with the first book, the second book is the basis of the second season. And I will say that thematically, um, forgiveness, redemption, salvation. Those could have been the words above that season too. And the beating heart of that show is still very much that relationship between Hannah and Bailey, portrayed so beautifully by Jennifer Garner and Angawi Rice. And this season, they're and this is a bit of a spoiler, but it's just fun. In the new book, you have a character named Quinn and a character named Teddy, and they play on you get real faces for the bad guys in this book, and they're played beautifully respectively by Judy Greer and Luke Kirby. They're really wonderful.
Oh, I like as soon as you say Judy Greer, she's fantastic. And like,
Oh, it's
yeah,
fantastic.
she's Quinn. Yep, that's and oh, good casting there.
And
Wow.
and one spoiler I will say is there is one scene between Hannah Hall and Quinn that is my favorite scene of the second season.
Okay, we cannot wait to watch that. So I don't want to give too much away about the book, but it goes to some interesting places, like some locales, and in reading the acknowledgments, you did some research
Yeah.
in some of those places. I don't know how much you want to say about where you went, but like how much research do you normally do, and is it fun? Because I tend to not do all that much of it. So
Oh,
I'm very curious to hear about another author. Like,
I do so much. I went to Fisher Island. That takes place in there's a little bit in Fisher Island, which is a little island off the coast of Miami. There's a lot I will say in France without
okay,
giving too
so
much away
we can
about
say
what
that.
that looks
Okay,
like.
yeah,
Oh yes, and Paris. I feel like if there's ever a chance in a book to go to Paris, everyone should know. So you get to go to Paris in this book. And so I do a ton of research. I go to all the places. Before I was a mom, I would go live in the places for a period of time. Now those are shorter trips, but I drag my kid with me. For me, I always feel like if I'm writing about a dentist and I haven't spent time with a dentist, I'm going to write about cavities because that's what I know. But if I spend 5 days with a dentist, even though if a lot of it won't make its way to the page, it helps me find the detail that I want to put in there. But my husband, if he were on this call, would say, well, also, let's admit you're not putting a book in Siberia and then going to learn about Siberia. So I'm picking places I want to spend time. I want to spend time in Paris in the south of France. And it really helps me sort of live in the spaces where those characters go. Something I did with the last thing he told me was I went to Austin, I went to do the research and everything. After I finished the book, I spent 2 days mimicking the 2 days that the characters did in the book. I took the same walks they took. I do all of that to really make sure that uh, I I land it. But what's so funny is I'll do all that and people will still reach out and be like, that's not what Austin is, or this isn't. So you still get hit. It doesn't matter, or hit's the wrong word. But I'm like, well, but then I can sort of breathe into, but I did it. So I know that that's one way it could look and be.
No, that's very smart. I should be taking notes because I do just like the bare minimum because I'm also like, it's fiction, everyone. It's fiction. Like
Yes,
there's
it is. Well, so it's
that's
so funny. I had a teacher in graduate school who very much took your approach to it. And if people would write to him and be like, "Well, that didn't happen in Paris," he'd be like, "It happened in my Paris." And like I always, it's fiction. So, but like so a book of yours, which we were chatting about before we came on, The House Across the Lake, which I love very much. Like you didn't go live on a lake. It felt so lived in. I felt
well,
like,
that's the exception because that was the book. I just was there at like we rented a lake house during the pandemic just to get out of our house, and it was
yes,
just so lovely. And like the very first night we were there, I was like, I want to set a book here.
I am so glad you did.
And so it was really like the book sprouted from like that lake house. I didn't seek it out. It was just like inspiration in the moment. And I'm so glad I went there too. And
Yeah.
we've been back so many times since just because we love it there.
Oh, which lake, may I ask? Or
It's in eastern Vermont. It's called Lake Maury. It's very tiny. It's very bucolic. It's if that house ever came up for sale, I would probably just like,
have to have it.
yeah, liquidize all my assets just to to get that house. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so
So,
let's see. We are getting close. I've one more question. I usually save it for the very, very end, but
okay.
I'll do it now before we get to reader and listener questions. Um, but years ago, I was in conversation with an author who had done just a bajillion interviews, and she'd been asked every question on earth. And I had to think of like, what hasn't she been asked? So I came up with like one question that I now ask everyone I'm in conversation with
Okay, I'm excited.
because I can guarantee no one has ever asked them this before.
Okay.
And so are you ready for my
I'm ready.
final gotcha question? It's a
Yeah.
toughie. Who is your favorite Muppet?
Um,
It can be from Sesame Street, Muppet Show, Fraggle Rock,
it can be
any of them.
Sesame Street.
It can be Sesame Street. Yep, they're
Can it be
Muppets.
Cookie
Yeah.
Monster?
Oh, he's a good one.
He's my favorite.
Yeah,
I was as soon
that's a
as
very.
when you saw my eyes go down, I was like, can I say Cookie Monster?
You can absolutely say Cookie Monster.
I
Yeah,
love Cookie Monster. I've always loved Cookie Monster. And one of my favorite children's book was Frog and Toad. And my favorite, I loved Frog and Toad, all of them, but I especially love the one with the cookies and the willpower. And I think it's because I love Cookie Monster so much and I associate all of it together. So that's my favorite.
that's a really good answer because I ask it because like everyone loves the Muppets,
Yeah.
and it says a lot about a person like who their favorite Muppet is. And so thank you for answering my silly question.
Well, I love that question. I'm going to need to hear your answer. But now that you've asked, I'm like, I jumped in so quickly and I didn't say Miss Piggy, who I also
Oh,
love so much. And I've loved her forever. And I feel like she deserves her praise. But who's your answer?
it's probably Kermit. Like I
Oh,
love Miss Piggy. I love Camilla the chicken for some reason.
Oh, wow.
But it's Kermit is just, I think, like the
I know.
what's
Kermit.
good and right about the world. Like I think we should all be more like Kermit.
I think that's true.
I should put that on the t-shirt.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay, now that that silliness is done, thank you for indulging me. I guess we can open it up to questions now.
We
Wonderful.
can. There's Patrick too.
And Barbara, can I vote on the Muppets?
Yes.
Absolutely. Yes.
All right, I'm going to go with the Count for Sesame
Hmm.
Street,
Oh,
and Animal from the
Oh,
Muppets, the drummer.
yeah.
Barbara?
This is such a sobering moment for me. I am at least one generation older than all of you, since I'm heading out on my 85th birthday trip. And the Muppets weren't part of my life. So I don't really have an answer. I find that true as I've been reading lately, trying to get ready to go. I've had to read all the way into March, and I recognize that things that are engaging readers, the topics in the books that I'm reading and all, are less and less familiar to me. I think that's
Yeah.
all part of aging, is that the context of my life is different than, that. So when Riley asked the question, I thought the only one I've really heard of, amazingly, is Kermit.
Yeah.
A win for Riley. Yeah.
Oscar the Grouch is good too.
Oh, I do love Oscar the Grouch.
Yeah.
we
I
all
mean,
wish we
Jim
could be a bit
Henson
like
is
him.
actually, as a person, I sort of know him better or have heard of him more than the actual Muppets.
Or how about the two guys that are always up in the balcony in the Muppet Show?
Statler
Uh,
and Waldorf. Yes.
Okay.
yeah. Sorry.
So I'll ask you this question. Who is Bullwinkle? Because my brother, who is only 7 years younger than I am, Bullwinkle was like the Muppet of his life. Rocky and Bullwinkle, it was that show.
I watched them as a kid and Boris and Natasha. Yep.
Yeah. I
They're more
mean,
cartoons though.
yeah, right. I'm more back into Kukla, Fran, and Ollie. Ha, that'll fool you all.
Okay. Let's see. There are a lot of people on here that are just weighing in about how much they love both of your books. Let's see if there's an actual question. Yeah, Robin says, Laura, did you stand under the Congress Street Bridge in Austin as the bats took flight for the evening?
I sure did. And that was magical. And one of my favorite moments of being on set for the show, the first season of the show, we went back to Austin to shoot, and we were there when the bats took off. We all went and stood
Cool.
under the bridge, and that's in episode 5 of the show.
Wow. There's a canal bridge here in Phoenix where you can do the same thing.
Oh, really?
Have you ever been to that, Barbara?
No, I haven't.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay. People are curious also, Riley, about your work in progress. What can you tell us?
Nothing. I just I start a new book every January 2nd. And so I'm literally just days into like this book. I have one coming out in August, so now I'm starting the next one, and I don't talk about it until it's way, way, way finished. Laura, are you working on something now
I'm
or
the
no?
same as you. Well, I don't start January 2nd. I wish I did, but necessarily, but I don't talk about it. If I talk about it, it lessens my need to write it, if that makes sense.
I compare it to a balloon. Like
Yeah,
when you talk about it, you let the helium out
I
bit by bit, and then it just deflates.
I totally agree.
Let's see. A lot of people are just saying congrats on the Reese pick. Um, let's
Yeah, how does
see.
that go? I've heard that's very from other authors who've been Reese picks that it is like very, very top secret, hush hush. Like, can you give us a little behind the scenes look at like what it is like being a selection?
It is
Like,
very secret. And I got so many texts today, like you didn't mention it to me. I'm like, I don't want to be killed. I'm not telling him. So, you just keep it to yourself and you don't tell anybody and you just, sort of are very grateful. I was really excited and grateful. It's I didn't know that that was going to happen for the sequel. And the RBC community has been so really, really embraced the last thing he told me. So I feel very excited. It was, and as I said, you don't know what the announcement's going to look like. You don't know any of that. So it was a real surprise to me as well.
Don't you think that the story of Reese as becoming a book, influencer is a fascinating story? I keep waiting for somebody to actually write about it.
Oh yeah, it's really I feel like people haven't. I mean, I feel like I totally agree with you, Barbara. She is, it's an amazing thing to, everyone who has a book club who's like taking the time to talk about books and engage a community. It's so wonderful. She has 30 million people she tries to engage, and she does engage, and it's just really for us writers, it's really wonderful.
Yeah, and I love that it began basically because she was just looking for good parts. And so
Yeah.
she was reading books and just decided like, okay, I'm going to sort of be the captain of my own career here. And so I'm going to read books that I love and try to make them into things that I love and provide good parts for me or good parts for other actresses. And it took off from there. And she's just such a dynamo.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Laura,
that
did
was
you
a
get a call
tremendous
from her?
story. We go back to Oprah. I mean, I'm trying to think if there was somebody that influential other than Oprah. Can any of you remember before Reese? I mean, for a while, Oprah's book club was just, magic.
Yeah.
But she had a more specific agenda, I think.
Well, she still has a book club that I
Yeah,
think.
no, she
Yeah,
does.
yeah.
I agree, but I was trying to remember before Oprah.
Yeah.
Oprah then had this huge influence. Now Reese has this huge influence. It's interesting how, some one person can kind of pick it
Yeah.
up and,
Seems like
light it
Oprah
up.
was sort of the first that I'm aware of that of a television personality kind of thing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, I think it speaks that people really do want to read and they want a good book, but they just don't know where to start. And so like they look to these sort of guiding lights for like, oh, let's begin here. And then the good thing is then I think they discover an author that they love or they discover a genre that they love, and then they move on and start sort of curating what they want to read outside of the book clubs.
Mhm.
Well, let's be realistic. I just got an email today, as I do at the beginning of every week, from Edelweiss, which is a publisher um, website, convenient website. And on average, there are 2,000 new books, adult fiction, released every week. And
Is
so
that
how do you,
right?
oh
That's
yeah,
crazy.
how do you navigate that? I mean, I could show you right here because well, I won't. But anyway, I can't navigate it, and I'm in theory a book professional. And if I were just an ordinary reader, wandering into a bookstore and confronted with this tsunami of stuff, how do you decide? You can have a fairly narrow focus on what you want to read. We hear that all the time. I only read books by women, or I only read books set in Oklahoma, or whatever, it might be. Some readers have really distinct profiles that helps narrow down this universe of books. And it's really fun, isn't it, Patrick, to disrupt them. I learned that,
I've never heard anybody say only books in
well,
Oklahoma.
I haven't either. That was just an
That
example.
would be kind of an eccentric reader, I would think.
Well, when I was getting my master's in library science, they taught us what they called the reference interview, your way of, being at the desk and narrowing in on the reader who staggers in and says, sell me a book. And so I refined it for the bookstore. And basically, it comes down to three questions that almost always work. One of which is, where do you live? Because it's amazing how many people, let's say in Minnesota, have never read William Kent Kruger. That's always a surprise. What do you do? Because oftentimes people are interested in a profession, not necessarily their own. That'll work. Or you could say, I'm trying to remember, there were three of them. Those are the two main ones. But here's a great question. Try it again. Kate Quinn has a new book coming out this month called The Astral Library, which involves a person with a truly shitty life managing a magical door in the Boston Public Library that takes her into a magical library where she can then choose to enter and live in any book she wants. And the key question to this, guys, and I've been trying to answer it to myself, if you could live in a book, any book, what book would you choose? Wow, is this a hard question? I can't come up with one.
Laura, do you want to take that? Because I cannot think.
It's so funny
my
because
brain is spinning right now.
I
I know.
immediately went to some of my favorite books that I love, and I'm like, I love those books. I don't want to live in them.
Exactly.
Right.
You
And
know,
as a corollary question, you have a choice between only temporarily, or do you want to stay there for good?
I wouldn't want to stay there for good.
Oh, no.
Right. But I mean, I've really been thinking about that. You know,
Yeah.
if I could choose to live in a book, what book would I choose? And, I have an author staying with me, and she and I walk every morning, and the two of us spend 45 minutes trying to work out what book, and we couldn't come up with one, either one of us, definitively.
Maybe Ina Garten's memoir. Because then I could just live in her
You can
barn
eat
or her
well.
kitchen, eat
I
that
love
food.
that. Yeah, that's a good
Yeah,
one.
if memoirs count, then yes, there are several where it's like, yeah,
Exactly.
let's hang out.
Yeah.
There was no restriction. The word was just book. It didn't say it had to be fiction or whatever. But anyway, I thought it was fascinating. Patrick, what would you do? Do you have a thought?
Maybe, I don't know, maybe The Wind in the Willows or something like that. You know, some
Do you want to be?
pastoral, yeah.
I
But
love it.
now everybody's starting to wake up and throw in some questions. So
Okay.
Okay.
let me add some of these. Okay. By the way, we do have people watching from all over the world. A good friend in
Lovely.
Australia is tuned in. No sign of Stefania, our Italian friend, yet. Um, Sorry. Okay, here we go. A question for both of you. Actually, all these questions really apply to both of you. Questions about character names. How do you come up with the names for your characters? Is there a method to it, or I know some people pick random names out of the phone book and combine them. How does that work for you?
Well, for me, my main character usually his name is an alliteration. So, Hannah Hall, Emmy Everett, not always, not every book, but many of the books. Nora Noon. I tend to do that for the main one. Um, it's like a way for me to think that like in the same universe, all these people live with only that they're allowed to live in with only names that have alliterations. But for everyone else, the way that it works for me is often I think I know the name, and just like you lock into the ending, I lock into the right name as I'm writing. So names often change for me.
I do that as well, and sometimes I forget to go back and change them.
Yeah.
And then the copy editor will be like, "Who is this person you're referring to?" It's like, "Oh, it's this person. Sorry, missed one or two or
Yeah.
three." But no, like I tend to for my protagonist, I like to use names that are a little bit unusual just to make them more memorable. So we have like Quincy and Casey, and in my upcoming book, the main character's name is Marin, and I just think it's nice, a little way to make them stand out a little bit more. But often I look to my bookshelf because like that's where I write, in that chair, and so I'm surrounded by books. And so if I'm struggling with the name, I'll just look at the spines and maybe like try to combine like just different, because I just be like, okay, so we have an Emily and we have a Jackson. Emily Jackson, does that work as a name? And sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes I just change them.
I love that. I love that it goes to the spine. That's fun.
So you both have like, halfway through, this is just not Stephanie, it's
Always.
Yeah.
Penelope, and do a global search and replace kind of thing.
Yeah.
And there's no rhyme or reason to it. It just has to feel
Exactly.
right.
And it's like a feeling. You're like, this person is, and sometimes the more you get to know them, the different characters, the more their name reveals themselves. They're no longer a Theo. That's just not going to work.
Yeah, it's just like, no, you're not a Theo. You are a Thomas.
Yes.
You have Thomas characteristics or something silly like that.
Okay, here's a question. What authors do you like to read when you aren't writing?
You want to take that one first?
Oh gosh. I too often I'm writing and I don't read as much as I want to because I don't read a lot when I'm writing because I worry about like picking up on someone's voice or just honestly reading something phenomenal and then feeling really crappy about my own skills. And so like I tend to just like stick to nonfiction when I'm actually writing. And so I love Megan Miranda. I love Megan Abbott. Um there's a horror writer named Clay McLeod Chapman who's so talented yet so utterly twisted and disturbing, yet he's the nicest man on earth. And so those are three of my like go-tos.
Um, I am with Riley in that I often read nonfiction when I'm writing. I just read a book that's coming out this spring called London Falling by Patrick Keefe. And I thought that was amazing. When I'm writing, I tend to reread books I've already read, which is this like comfort thing, I think. I have day books and night books. Like night books are escape, day books are often for research or something I'm thinking about. And night books are like the juicy, cozy novel. One book I've read many, many times is Heartburn by Nora Ephron. I love that book. Um, I often reread a play that I love very much, The Real Thing by Tom Stoppard. I don't read a ton uh of books that feel at all similar because it would mess me up while I'm working on something.
Yeah, I try not to read something too close to what I'm writing because it just, again, I don't want to feel, because when I was writing with a Vengeance, which takes place on a train, there were so many train books that I could have gone to. And I'm like, nope, stays far away. Like I want to be on my own train and not think about the other trains. And so it just mentally.
It's so important. I'm with you.
Let's see. Carol would like to know what song did you listen to, Laura, as you wrote this book?
So something that I didn't touch on is for every book I listen to one song on repeat. And the song changes with every book. So for this book, for the last book, I should say, since they're sisters, for the last thing he told me, the song was If I Should Fall Behind by Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. But it was a specific version of that song that he sang at Madison Square Garden. And so everyone in the band has a verse of that song. For this book, for the first time I saw him, um, uh, did I just say the last thing he told me wrong too? I probably no, I don't know. But anyway, the the first time I saw him for this book, it was a song from Folklore, a little album by Taylor Swift. It was called Cardigan. And the reason I'm obviously being sarcastic, I think everyone in the world probably has listened to something by Taylor Swift at this point, but uh, the song Cardigan became, for me, the last verse of it is became like a siren call for Hannah, because I think something about Hannah that I tried to stay true to in both books is that she knew the end of her story before anyone else did. And so that last verse became like a siren call for me in the writing.
Oh, that's a great answer. And that's a great song.
It's a great song.
It's a great album. Like, just come on.
Yes. It's pretty much perfect, that album.
Actually,
It is,
Riley, when
yes.
you were at the store last time, didn't we have kind of a Taylor Swift moment?
Oh
I
yeah, yeah.
did.
I'm a very avid Swiftie, and my readers know it. And so like I'm always asked about Taylor Swift. Like people give me friendship bracelets. It's awesome.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yes, whenever like every store I go to, like people have friendship bracelets with me, and I love it so much. I keep all of them. Like I have a drawer full of friendship bracelets.
That's amazing.
You
I
know,
love
one of our really good customers is Nils Lofgren from the Bruce Springsteen's E Street Band. He lives in Scottsdale, and
kidding.
Yeah.
he's the sweetest guy. I mean,
He's a great reader too, isn't
he's
he?
such a nice guy.
Well, you can tell him I listened to that song 33,000 times when I was working.
Okay.
Quite literally, that's not an exaggeration.
It keeps track on Spotify of like I listen to it like
Well, so I have it on, I own it. Like I have it on, own it. I have it on iTunes.
on
So it
iTunes.
has
Okay.
yeah.
Any other questions, Patrick?
That's what I'm trying to look at. I think let me just jump over to YouTube real quick. Okay, so Laura, you've already really addressed some of this. Brittany asks, how is season 2 of the show coming out so soon after the book? Will the season 2 of the show mirror the new book or be a whole separate story vibe?
Yes. So I again don't want to give too many spoilers, but I will say to Brittany that I, and Riley's aware of this. I don't know what your window is, but I finished this book, over a year ago. So like there's a window in which the writers had, a lot of the book, and I walked the showrunners through what the book was going to be. As soon as I had a draft, even though I wouldn't share it yet. So that's one of the ways that it was able to move that way. And yeah.
Yeah, I
Cool.
think people are surprised how far in advance sometimes a
Yes.
book is done.
Yes.
And then when we do go on tour and answer questions, sometimes I have to just stop and think because I'm like,
Yeah,
it's been a long time since I sat with that book. So I have to just give me a second.
That's
exactly.
why Patrick and I always read the book, before the author comes, because I have seen so many frozen moments from authors going, did I write that? Is that really my book? What do I say? And I think it's very hard to be the whole show when you're on tour, you know. So we try to deal with that. Not maybe as successfully as we could but at least we've read the book
That's
recently,
that's
which helps a
wonderful.
lot. Yep,
I
it
did, I
does.
did have, I will say one, because you guys were just asking about the show, one fun moment that speaks to that, Barbara, is when I was on set with the first season, we were in wardrobe one day, and Jennifer Garner was trying on this purple robe, like for a scene. And she's like, I just think because, Hannah would really love purple and loves purple. And I said, I can see that. She's like, it was in the book. You wrote it. You wrote how important purple, which I didn't even remember, because by that point, to Riley's point and everything, I was like,
That's
oh,
fascinating. I could end this by saying sometimes it's the fans. I remember when Jim Butcher came to the store, he had a huge following. The store was absolutely packed. And he sat down and he said, I will take questions. And I thought this is going to be a disaster. And instead, every time somebody asked a question, the entire room was with it. They knew the question, they knew the answer. I mean, it was amazing. It was just like, do you remember that, Patrick? It was just
Yeah,
fascinating to me because oftentimes, fans are all in different places, but in his case, they were all like united in some, in the Wizard World Chicago. Everybody was there. So every book event is really quite an experience, depending on the author and the fans. I mean,
Well,
it's an alchemical thing.
I retain more as a reader than I do as the writer of
You-
things. Yeah, like I can remember moments from books that I've read like decades ago, and I can't remember what I wrote last year.
Gotcha.
yeah. One of the questions is, do you brush up on your book before you go out on the road? Do you look at it and say, okay, familiarize yourself with it again?
Or actually, Laura, did you reread the first book to prepare, or no, you didn't need to?
So when I was writing this book, I reread that book. I started every morning. I don't know how you start your mornings, but I start my morning by reading what I wrote the day before, and then I keep going. But because it was the sequel and I really wanted them to speak to each other, I would read a chapter from the first book as I was going. Like I'd pick a random chapter and read it. So I've read that book now so many times, the first one, that so I didn't familiarize myself with. I haven't read either of them in a little while, is the answer.
Well, fortunately, today everybody will be able to
Everyone
read
can read it.
the new book, right? It's a beautiful book. We didn't even touch upon the cover, but I do think, the colors and the presentation of the cover is really riveting. I like that so much. And of course, they do have the sequel to the first book. I'm going to mess it up if I try to quote the title.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to do it. But it's all right there in this gorgeous package. So thank you, Laura, very much for signing books for us. And Riley, how wonderful to see you again. We'll hope to
Great
see
seeing you
you in
guys.
August one way or another. And thank you all for watching our program and feel free to share it however you wish Anybody can watch it on YouTube, on a smart TV, or,
And
however
grab
it
one of our
works.
signed copies before they disappear. I put the
Yeah,
link.
for sure.
Yep.
Great. All right. Bye, everybody. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Laura. This was a pleasure. Thanks for
Enjoy the
inviting me.
rest of your day,
Riley,
Laura.
thank you so much. Thank you guys.
Congrats on the
everyone.
pub date.
Final toast. There we go.
Thank you.